Okay. So no question. So today we will continue our discussion about Java FX. The very first thing I want to do is, so let me first share screen, okay? Let's take a look at the other example, okay? Let me first try to run this example. I don't remember if you can see the running out window. Let me just first run, okay? Can you see the generated output window?
No.
Oh, okay. Then let me need to start shares. Then I need to share this screen. Okay, let me, how do I get to, hold on, okay, there is someone I needed to get admit. Okay, let me share screen again. Okay, so can you see the output window right now? Not the coding window? Did you see this? Yeah. So this is the second example that I just run. Is it? So you can see in this window, we have some image. So this is an image. And we have this, so basically it's a single image, like the Java FX logo, is it? And we triple them is it 3 times and output them, is it? And also for the third one is we kind of doing a rotation, is it? So that's regarding this second example. So I'm going to go back, share the code. Hold on, this is that window is still, hold on. I need to go back here. Okay. And then, okay. And then let's take a look at this one. So now we come to the coding, okay. So last class, we already discussed, is it for a Java FX application, you need to have the bottom layer is what? Is a stage. Then on top of stage, you have scene. And then you can add some layout. And like a grade pane or flow pane, HBox, those. And then on top of it, you can add controls. So those are the basic components you need to add to a Java FX application. So what today, this second example, the output you already saw, that it's some image. And we repeat the image 3 times, but we change the size and also did some rotations. So how do we get the image also on your Java FX applications? So that's what this example shows. And for this example, if you take a look here, it throws some exception, that, and later on we will see, okay, so first let's take a look. So the very first step, what we did here is we have this HBox. Do you still remember what the HBox is? Is it a stage or it's a scene?
Layout?
Yeah, very good. Okay, so yeah, you already told me it's a layout. So layout, okay, it's a layout. So this we create a layout pane, as we call it a pane, and we set its inside offset. So top, bottom, left, right. That so anyway, so this is the layout we put, and then over here, if you take a look, that so this input, the variable, the type is file input stream. Previously in file IO we learned, is it? And for file IO, generally speaking, we need to deal with the exception, is it? And the Java file IO, the exception we also learned we have two types, is it checked exception and unchecked exception, is it? And Java file IO, it's checked exception, is it? So that's why over here for this start, you either need to use the try catch block, is it, to deal with it. And over here, we just let this method to throw this exception, is it? So anyway, so over here, we are going to have this image file. So this is a PNG file, okay. So this is an image file. And previously in our file IO section, when we learned the file, it's just a plain text file, but this is an image file. And because the file IO, the file input stream, it deals with what? We call it byte stream, is it? So that's why it can deal with the image file. Okay, so anyway, so here we first associate, so this file, this image PNG file, is it? It's stored in your local hard drive, is it? So in this case, it's in the same folder as this JavaFX application project, is it? So it's stored there. And then we needed to create an image with this file. Okay, so in JavaFX, you have this class called image, and it can create an image object with the specified file. Okay, so in this case, it's a local file. And for JavaFX, if you want to get the image, is it on your layout, is it? You need to have the image view there. Okay, so you have the image object, is it? And then you use it to create an image view. Okay, then we add this image view to our layout. Okay, to our layouts. So this is the first image that we added. Okay, and what next is, you see here, we create another image view. The second image view, and we still use the same image, is it? The same image object, is it? And this time for this image view, so we use the same image object, is it? But this time we change its size. We didn't use its original size. We resize it. We said, okay, we set fit size to 200, so it's 250 by 200, is it? So you resize the image. Then you also add it to the layout pane, is it? And then the third one, so for the third one over here, you see it's still use that image object, is it? So we didn't create a new image, but you associate with different image view. The same thing, we resize it. But this time, did you see you also rotate it? Then we rotate it with 90 degrees. And then you add it to the layout. Because this H box is a horizontal layout. Is it horizontal layout? So it will add each node, is it, horizontally one by one. Okay. After that, then we just add the layout to the scene, and then you add the scene, is it, to the stage, and then we show, is it. So it's pretty straightforward for this example, is that you can see. The only thing is why here we throw exceptions. It's because of the file input stream. Okay, so over here, so in JavaFX, if you want to deal with some image, if you want to have some image on your application windows, is it? There are two ways. One is the one we just showed, is it? So you associate, you give the physical location of the file, is it, on your application, is it? And then you associate with a file input string, is it? And then you associate with, you use it to create an image object. So that's one way. The second way is, because a lot of time you can also load the image from internet, is it? So URL. So you can also load the image from a URL, is it? So here it shows that we still use a file system, but it's a URL, is it, for the image. But just be careful, okay? You create the image, but in order to view it, you need to have the image view class, okay? And the corresponding class, we also import here from JavaFX. Is it like for image and the image view is both under the image, is it? So that's basically for this example, so not too comprehensive, okay? And we also already see the output. And what next we are going to see is, let's see this, yeah, because this is going to also be related with your lab and project. So let me see first. Let's do this one. Okay, so looks like I cannot do the slideshow. Okay, so can you see my my slides right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you can see the slide. So if you take a look, so this is the textbook example, okay? So what it did is the output window, you can see it's here. So this is the output window, is it? And I remember to use grade paint, is it? So all of these are labels. So we already learned, is it? This like some text field, you can get input, is it? So the idea is here we have the button, is it? If you click the button, it's supposed to do some calculation. So this is a loan calculation. So you have interest rate, is it number of years, is it the loan amount? And then it will figure out monthly payment and the total payment. So these two will be output. So once you click the calculation button, is it will be based on this three input, is it? And then does calculation, is it? And then output, is it? So this is the calculated output. So this kind of application quite useful, is it? So how do we do this, is it? And the button click, so last class we also kind of mentioned, so it's different from what we already learned so far for console application, is it? So this is event-driven programming, because once you click the button, it will do something, is it? React to your action, is it? Okay, so how do we do all of this? So let's take a look at the example. And let's do, yeah. Okay, so for this, that's the loan calculation, is it, example? So over here, if you take a look, is it? So you remember we have some text field, is it? So for interest rate, is it? It's a text field, so it will take user input, is it? Number of years is also text field, is it? Loan amount is also text field. And the monthly payment and total payment all are also text field here, is it? And here we also have a button, is it? And if you take another look, you will find all of these controls, is it? Those are controls. Individual control, is it? We have text field, we have button, is it? Those controls in this example, they are also be set up as instance variable of this class, is it? And they are private, okay? So that's the point of here. And then next, let's take a look. So the start method, is it? We are going to do the GUI design, is it? Okay, in this GUI design, we have the grade pane, is it? Grade pane. Okay, for the grade pane, then you are going to add the label, is it? You remember we have the label. Then we also have that text field, is it? Text field. And you can specify which cell, is it? It is. So this regarding the grade pane, it's pretty similar as our first example, is it? Then you add the text field and its corresponding label for number of years, is it? And the loan amount, same thing, the label and the text field, is it? And then we have the monthly payment, is it? And total payment text field. And the button, is it? So we add all of the controls to the grade pane, is it? So this part is pretty similar as our first example. And then over here is just do some alignment, is it? Set a property for user interface. UI means user interface, is it? So where you want your pane be located, is it? Here it says, oh, I want to locate it to the center, is it? And you also want to do some alignment, is it? Alignment for each of the field, is it? For each of the control, is it? How do you align it? And also, do you want to set, because those are text field, is it? So interest rate, number of years, loan amount, is it? Those are text field. And text field for the last two, for the monthly payment and total payment, they will just display whatever the calculated result, is it? So you don't want a user to be able to change the calculation result, is it? That's why over here it sets editable as false. So basically you can also use the label to display the calculated result, is it? But here, because it picks the text field, then you set editable as false. Because for those, for annual interest rate number, and those you can see, is it? It's editable, is it? Editable. So anyway, so here you add everything, is it? And set up the property, okay? And then we add the same, is it? So nothing, add the same and then add to the stage, okay? But, and over here for the button, is it? This is a button control, is it? The button control, then what we did, we let the button react to something, is it? React, and if you take a look, this looks like a method, is it? To calculate loan amount, is it? So it looks like over here. So over here, we call the method. We call the method, is it? For button click event, is it? Okay, then let's take a look at that method, calculate loan method, is it? So here we have this calculate loan method. And for this method, if you take a look, because you're going to do some loan calculation, is it? And where you get the value. So we get the value from text field. Is it? So how did you retrieve text field information? You call the get text method from the text field control, okay? And what you get is a string. the return type for get text is string, is it? But when you do calculation for interest rate, it should be double. Is it? That's why over here you call double that parse double, is it? So you convert string, is it, to double. Is it? That's what this part does. Similar for the number of years, is it? And the loan amount, is it? The loan amount. And then over here to use a loan class. Loan class is discussed in chapter 10. Okay, so we can refer back. So anyway, it will do the loan calculation, is it? And then you can get the monthly payment and get the total payment from the loan calculation, is it? And this time you're going to display the result, is it, to the text field. So you can call text field set text method, is it? And over here, if you take a look, and we can change the color, okay. So over here, you can see, because it's set text, so it will take a string, is it? For set text method. So it will be some string type. So that's why if you want to do formatting, you can call string data format, is it? Exactly like previously what we learned, is it? So you can call string data format to format also your output, is it? So here it shows, okay, I want to have a dollar sign. I just want to have 2 decimal points, is it? Because it's money involved, you only have 2 decimal points. So this percentage is refer to this value, is it? And it's double, is it? So that's, you can also do formatted output, okay? So that's regarding this method, is it? And also you can see, because previously in our first example, for all of our controls, we just put the controls inside the start method, is it? And here, you put all of the controls inside the class as instance variable, is it? That's because, you see, start method needed to access that, is it? And later on, your calculator method also needed to access that, is it? That's why you better put those controls as instance variables for this application, is it? So that every method can access it. And then over here, you see, that's the method we define, is it? So this looks like new, is it? Because what it does here is inside a method, it's kind of you directly plug in another method, is it? That's what we never learned, is it? And this is called lambda expression, okay? Very useful. So when you, in the future, if you will work as a Java developer, okay, you will write this a lot, okay? Okay, so this involves a new concept, okay, lambda expression, and over here it's event programming. Okay, so next we will learn of those concepts. Okay, so let's go back to, okay, hold on, okay, I don't know why my NetBeans not working. Let me kind of frozen there. I don't know why it's frozen. Hold on, let me get the, now it's back, okay. No? Okay, I don't know why my machine is frozen. Hold on. Let me temporarily stop, pause our. Oh, my computer is just frozen. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can hear me, okay. For some reason, my computer completely frozen, looks like. Even I cannot stop recording. I cannot do anything on Zoom also. Oh, that's just, hold on, okay. Let me first at least bring the, bring my NetBeans back. Let me first, and okay, then let me bring back, let me try, okay, to see if I cannot minimize, oh, yeah, because I cannot stop, okay, let's resume, and then let's go back to, okay, so can you see my code now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, then because the new concept, as I just discussed, is that we are going to learn event. We are going to learn event programming, is it? And the lambda expression. But before we move to this two new topic, we have something else we need to understand first. So the first thing today, we will learn a new concept. It's called inner class and nested class concept. Okay, so let's see. So in this example, this is a quite simple example. It's called the class called car parts, is it? And it's a class. And we have two instance variable, ID. And we have the second one, this one factory ID. And this is static. So it's a class variable. Okay, so be careful. ID is instance variable. Factory ID is the class variable, okay? Then next, let's see. Did you see, this is weird. Is it so far we haven't seen something like this? Is it because normally after the class variable instance where we have the method, is it related with the class? But over here, what we have is, you see over here, is it? It says public class will A. Is it? It's kind of you define another class here. Is it? So this class will A, is it? It's embedded inside the car parts. Car parts, is it? So this class is called an inner class or nested class. You can also call it a nested, but generally speaking, we said it's an inner class. And the visibility you defined as public, is it? And it can also be defined as private and protected. Okay, so the keyword regarding visibility that we learned before also apply here. Okay, but anyway, this class is defined inside the car parts class, so it's an inner class. And for this class, you see, it has a variable x, and this variable is also an instance variable. So this instance variable belongs to will A class, okay? And then what is this? This is its constructor. Yeah, so in the class, same thing as class what we learned. It also support constructor method and the instance variable, class variable, so similar, okay? It's embedded within another class. It's associated with another class. And this part For this example, it's quite straightforward, is it? Because it's discuss car part, and the car wheel definitely is part of the car, is it? So that's why we put it inside, is it? Inside. And what it does, okay, so you access instance variable, is it? Nothing new here, okay? And then let's see, over here, let's see, over here, what it did. It directly access what? Factory ID. Factory ID is who? Is outer class. Is it, or we call it enclosing class. Closing class, what? Class variable. Is it? So it can directly access enclosing class variable. It can also directly access what? Its enclosing class's instance variable. Is it? And so this is one option you can access. You can also do this. Car parts dot this dot ID. Okay, for the enclosing class's instance variable. And same thing for the factory ID. You can also do car parts dot this dot factory ID. Okay, so either way works. Okay, and you may ask, why do I need to do this? Is it because maybe you have the same name? Is it for your instance variable? Then if you do the outer class dot this, then it know, okay, it's enclosing classes instance variable, class variable, okay? Okay, so that's regarding this first inner class. And then next, let's take a look the next one. Is it? For the next one, if you take a close look, this time this class, it's called wheel. It's also an embedded class, is it? Within the car parts, but it has static, is a static class. So this class, we generally call it what? Call it static nested class. Normally, we don't call it inner class. We call it static nested class. Okay, so it has what? It has a static variable, is it? Called y. Okay, that's constructor. Is it? Its constructor here, what it does is it just output something. Is it? So over here, it access what? It access outer class or enclosing class. So what? Class variable. Is it directly? So that is fine. Okay, that is fine. If you try to do this, you said ID, that's not allowed. So static nested class cannot access non-static instance variable of its enclosing class. So keep this in mind. It can only access its what? Its outer class's static variable. Okay, class variable. And also like over here said, you cannot do this, okay? Maybe let's go here. You can, so that's also not allowed. So for this part, you do car parts dot this, that's not allowed. Okay, also not allowed. So be careful, okay, be careful.
Wait, why this factory ID is not allowed?
No, hold on, okay. Factory ID is allowed. Okay, this is allowed, but you cannot do car parts dot this dot factory ID. You cannot do this. You cannot use the car parts dot. You remember for the previous one, let's get, it's kind of stuck. Hold on. You remember for this inner class, where A, is it you can access that class variable, the enclosing class where factory ID, the factory ID is the outer class. You can access with factory ID. You can also do car parts.this.factory ID, is it? So either way works. Same thing for the instance variable. You can do ID, you can do car parts.this.id.
So what's the difference between ID and car parts?
Okay.
.this.id?
Yeah. Okay. The ID for car parts, ID is instance variable. Is it? Factory ID is what? Is a class variable. Is a class variable. So this is a regular inner class. So for regular inner class, it's allowed to access its enclosing classes, both instance variable and class variable. So both.
I'm sorry, yeah, it makes sense. I have a question. What's the difference between the ID when we call like ID and difference between car parts and this ID?
Okay, you see, ID, is it you can directly access. Okay, like over here says, use this key to get access to the member variable of the outer class. Is it? So you can do car parts .this, is it? .id. So that's also allowed. Okay, so it's just, you can do both ways. You can do both. And why you may ask, why then do we need this? It's because maybe you have instance variable here, also called ID. Then in this case, you need to differentiate with enclosing class ID and this ID, or you have some local variable ID. Is it? If in that case, if you do car parts.this.id, then it know, okay, this ID refers to the instance variable. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah, that's why
I think it will be so simple.
Yeah. And then, but for the nested, static nested class, okay, here says you cannot do car parts .this.factory ID. You cannot access ID. Okay, so instance variable you cannot access. And if you comment out, it will report error. Okay, not just this, for enclosing class, is it? Then it's class variable you cannot access. Is it? Why? Because it says for static class we know, is it? You don't need an instance. Is it? For static variable, is it? Static class, is it? You cannot use it to create instance. Is it? Create an instance, because it doesn't require you to create an instance of the outer class. Is it? That's why, how can you reference this? Is it? Oh, where is, can you still see my code?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so because the outer class, is it? Because it's static, so you cannot create instance, is it? So that's why over here, because reference means what? Reference means there is some object, is it? So that's why here says no reference of the outer class exists with this outer class .this. Because whenever you mean this, so be careful, okay? So in object-oriented programming, is it? So in Java, the special keyword this, is it? It refer to what? Refer object itself. Is it? So the very first thing is what? You need to have an object. Is it? But for static class, you don't use it to create object. So how can you use this? Is it? So that's why over here, you cannot do this, okay? Just some subtle difference here, okay? So that's regarding the static nested class, okay? Then this is the car parts constructor, is it? And what it does, okay, it assign ID, is it? And it call the inner class constructor to create a will A instance, is it? Then it access will A's variable, is it? And what next is this is the nested static class, is it? That's nested static class. Then what you can do is you assign some value to it, then you directly access the value. Is it? There is no instance associated with it. Is it? Okay, that's this class. We kind of get some idea. Is it? And next, let's see. It's application part. Let's find the.
Are we gonna have any quiz questions?
Hold on. Okay, let me finish this driver part. So then we have this second program, Java program. This is a driver part. Is it? Driver part is pretty simple. We first create a car parts objects. Is it? Then for this object, let's see. You can also, did you see, create, because that will A is public. Is it? You can also create an instance of will A. Is it? So then you do this car part object dot new. Okay. So this formatting, let's be careful. Okay. And for the will, is it? The will is static class, nested class. Is it? Then you cannot do like will A, and you need to do new, and this is not an instance, this is a class name. Is it? Then that will. Okay, so just be careful, the subtle difference. Okay, thanks for reminding me. Okay, so today, so the quiz is going to be, we learned the inner class. Is it? Inner class. So the question is for inner class, so can inner class access enclosing class 是instance variable and class variable. Okay, so that's the first question. The second question is, can static nested class do the same thing as inner class? Okay, so those are the two questions for today's quiz. So you just send your answer to the chat. Are there any other questions? And then tomorrow we should be able to start event programming, okay? Because once we understand the inner class, so today we cover inner class, and then tomorrow we are going to learn anonymous inner class. Then from there, we are going to discuss lambda expression, okay? And you can also see later on when we discuss lambda expression. So it has an advantage as you can write very concise code.
So on the quiz questions, the first one would be Yes, and then the static would be no because you can't access it from a static point, right?
Yeah, for static, you cannot access its instance variable. You can only
Okay.
access its class variable. Okay, so keep that in mind. And why we needed to discuss this, because later on we will learn event programming. For event programming, it's use a lot of the concept anonymous class, inner class, basically. And we are going to see event handler. Is it event? What is this? Okay. And you will see it's the Lambda Express introduce how to write very concise code. And then later on, when we learn a collection, you will also see its benefits. So today, and I don't think I will have enough time to start with anonymous inner class. We just have 2 more minutes left. Everybody send your answer to our chat. Okay, are there any other questions? Or any request for assignments or anything, or everything is pretty good?
I think it's all pretty good right now.
Okay, very good. Then let's just dismiss early today. Okay. Okay, thank you.